Hello everyone, welcome to Card Making Fundamentals and welcome to the Borders and Butterflies classroom. Today we're going to create our first project using our lesson kit, and we're going to go ahead and take that lesson kit out of our package. And we're going to need a few supplies to create our project today. So we're going to need a tape runner, we're going to need scissors, we're going to need a stamping block, a craft pick, and we're going to need something to clean our stamps off, so wipies or a stamp chamois would work perfectly for that. And then you're also going to need a white gel pen and also a piece of scratch paper. I'm going to fold that in half. So this is everything that we're going to need to create with our lesson kit. We're going to put these all aside and we're going to jump in and get started. Let's take everything out of the kit. Last month I had a very busy month and this was late getting out there, and I want to personally apologize. Usually it's out on the 1st, but I was running a little bit late, so I'm sorry that I didn't get it out in time. But we're going to create a fun butterfly card, and we're going to start off by taking the panel that has the butterfly on it, and then using our scissors we're going to fussy cut the butterfly out, and I'm going to leave a little bit of a border. Now I'm going to cut the antenna out also, antennae, but you don't have to. You can actually cut them out if you want to, but I kind of like the antenna there. And I'm going to leave a little bit of a border. Just follow along. Almost done. Since this border is tan, I don't have to worry about using a marker or anything to go around the edges. I think just having a tan border is fine. So there is my butterfly. After we have our butterfly cut out, we are going to stamp our sentiment. There is a piece of white cardstock in your pile over here, and we're going to need our stamp set. So let's take our stamp set here, and I'm gonna stamp Miss You. I want to make a Miss You card, but really, if you wanted to customize it, you could put Love You. I think 4 letters will fit perfect on here. You can put Hey You, so you can customize it to the sentiment that works best for you. But I'm going to stamp Miss You, and just using an acrylic block, I'm going to place the M on my block, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit better so you can see, and push this aside. And then we need our ink pad. I went ahead and opened mine up, but this is an ombre ink pad. I thought this would be super fun. It is a pigment ink, so it does take a little bit of time to dry. You could actually emboss with this, which is really nice. I'll wait for you guys to open up your ink, and then we're gonna stamp the letters MISS in the center towards the left on this panel here. I want to use the middle color and then the pinky fuchsia color, and I'm going to ink up my M, and we'll go ahead and stamp M all the way to the left, almost all the way to the left. I think that works good. I'm going to use one of my baby wipes to clean that off. And then we'll go ahead and grab our eye. I find it's a lot easier to clean it off while your ink is still wet. If you let it dry, it'll turn your stamps color. And you can tell that these aren't photopolymer, they're acrylic, but they stamp well. I'm going to add my eye to my block, and in the halfway mark I'm stamping right in between this color and this color. And then we're going to stamp the eye pretty close to the M, as even as I can get it. I think that looks good. I'm going to wipe this off, and then we need our S. And then we will stamp this right next to the I. There's one, and I'll stamp one more. I think that's going to work out great. After we have the Miss stamped, in our little Ziploc bag, there is a white, there's actually, did I give you 2 white tags? Yeah, I give you one, I give you 2 tags. We're only going to need 1, but just using my craft pick, I'm going to punch out that hole. But I gave you 2 just in case you didn't center it, so you have a backup. I'm going to go ahead and clean off my S here, and we're going to stamp the letter U right in the center of our tag. Kind of shorten our sentiment here. And again, if you wanted to write love you, it would be the same thing. Anything that ends with a U, you could probably fit on here. And I'm going to line the center of my U up with the punched circle on the tag here. And I think that's going to work out great. Okay, that's all the stamping that we're going to do. So I'm going to clean off my last letter here and put this back. And we're not going to use the dies in our kit this month for this card. So we're just going to set this aside. And then we're going to, this is, again, a pigment ink, so it takes a little bit of time to dry. So we'll set these aside to dry. And in the meantime, we can work on our card base. In our kit here, we have, and I'm missing a piece of blue cardstock. Hold on. Okay, your kit will have a strip. Mine was missing. And I am going to reinforce this score line with my bone folder, only because it wants to keep popping open. And last month I gave a little tool that would have worked perfectly for scoring too, if you wanted to use that. But we're going to take our blue cardstock, flip it around using our tape runner. We're going to adhere this all the way to the left of our card base. And I like to line up the top corner and kind of guide it down, and then we'll flip it around and just trim off what's overhanging. After we have this done, we're going to take our scalloped edge, and then also we're going to take our teal zigzag pattern paper. We're going to flip this around. I'm going to add adhesive on the back side here. We're going to flip this around, and then I just want a little bit of the border showing. So we're going to tack that down. If you have a little bit overhanging, you can go ahead and trim that off on the back side too here. And before we adhere this down, I want to take this little piece that kind of looks like a ladder. And this, I'm going to use our glue that came in the kit this month. So we're just gonna, a little trick when you open your glue, guys. It's a child proof, so if you keep turning it, it's not gonna open. It's just gonna spin. What you do is push in and then turn it. Push in and then turn it, and then it'll open. So a little child proof glue. And then we're gonna add some glue to each of the lines on our border here. I love textures on cards, and using die cuts like this is perfect to create textures. So I'm going to take my little ladder piece, and this is going to go all the way to the right. Line up the top corners, and then it should fit your card base perfectly because it's 5.5 inches. And then you want it to line up with the glue. You have a little bit of time to, little wiggle room, I like to say. But press that down so when you open it, you don't see any on the side here. So we have our border down, and then we can take our tape runner and adhere our pattern paper. I'm going to adhere it about 1/2 inch from this edge. So we're covering up this seam here. And to do that, we're just going to tape it down with the tape runner. And it should line up beautifully. About 1/2 inch again. And then we should be good to go on that. Kind of adds a little weight to your card base too. Okay, now we're going to set this aside, and then we have a stencil set in our kit this month. And so we're going to take that. Let me grab it. Really, we're only using this stencil for this card. The rest are just kind of bone. I really thought this was really pretty for a card if you wanted to stencil this using different color inks. But we need the stencil that has the floral pattern in the back. After we find it, we're going to line up the bottom edge here with the bottom edge of our little 3x4 piece of pattern paper. This is where your scratch paper that I told you to bring in, this is where we're going to bring that. That comes in handy. So I'm going to line that up, and then I'm going to use the tape we gave. Our kit came with a roll of tape. This is just masking tape. It's not special die. I think you could probably get away with die cutting. If I can find the end here. Okay. I think this would be great for die cutting too, to hold your die cuts down. But I thought I'd include it so we could secure our stencil to our scratch paper. And again, I'm lining up the bottom edge of the stencil to this bottom green edge here. Now after we have this done, we need to bring back our ink. And in our kit, we have a blending brush. Now this is, again, I want to stress that it's a pigment ink. So it is a little bit sticky and it will stain your brush. But I'm going to pick up some colors here. I'm going to start off with the top two. Actually, I'm going to flip it around so we have that fuchsia on the bottom. But I'm going to pick up the lightest orange and then the mid-tone orange with the brush. Kind of tap it a little bit And then we're going to go over the top of our stencil here. Kind of trail on the way down here. And then we're going to pick up the ink from our middle and our last layer, kind of go across. And then we're going to go from the bottom and bring it up to that orangey color here. And when you do this, if you want to mask off this bottom area, you could. Let me show you. If you wanted to mask off this while you do it so you don't get ink on that area, you could. But I think there's enough of that white border to where I'm pretty sure I won't hit it. But I just inked it up one more time. My paper's shifting a little bit. Make sure your paper doesn't shift. I'm going to pick up a little bit more of the orangey and a little bit more of the pink. And then we're going to just finish covering up our florals. Kind of intensifying those top edges. And I think that's going to work out great. Kind of wipe off the excess from my brush here using a baby wipe. And then while my stencil is still on my cardstock, I'll just take my baby wipe and just go over my stencil. Let's pull that out here. And then we can go over our stencil. Sometimes this is easier to go over it when it's taped down. But if you were to let this dry, it'd be harder to clean. So we'll just clean this off carefully because the fibers in the wipe, you want to lift up your florals. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and remove this. And then I can just discard my scratch paper. And our stencil is nice and clean. And we have a really pretty background. Now after we have our background done, we're going to go ahead and add a little bit of length to our cardstock here. So I'm going to flip this around and we're going to add adhesive behind the back bottom portion of this. And then taking the polka dot pattern paper, we're going to line that up right below our blue polka dot on the bottom, about 1/2 inch. Actually, let's go half the width of the cardstock. So half of it's behind our polka dots, half of it's in front. So it's a little less than 1/2 inch. And then since we have a little bit overhanging, we'll want to trim that off. And that's going to add a little bit of extra length to our panel. Now what we're going to do is take our dark gray cardstock and we're going to take our mist. It should be dry by now. Flip this around, add adhesive behind it, and then we're going to tack this down about 1/4 inch up from our sentiment here. Maybe a little less than 1/4. About that much. I have a little bit overhanging, so I'll just trim that off. Okay, I'm going to flip this around. We're going to add adhesive behind here, and then we're going to tack this down. So about 1/4 inch is showing of our teal cardstock here. And we're going to just layer this over the seam of our stenciled area. And then we'll flip this over and we're going to trim off what's overhanging. And then that is good to go. We're going to flip this around and take our foam circles and we're going to add a little bit of dimension. I included the foam circles that doesn't have very much dimension to them. And then I'm going to put, I think you might want to leave one for your circle here, and the rest I put behind my my stenciled background. Now we're going to remove our release paper and then we can place this almost in the center of our card. It's going to be a little bit hard to judge the center because there's different areas in the left and right, but I'd say make sure it's even from top to bottom and then left to right too. So we'll just tack that down so that foam adhesive doesn't have too much bulk, which is really nice. Now we're going to take everything out of our embellishment bag here. And then we have our twine. We're going to take this and we're going to thread it through our circle that we stamped our U on, and then we're going to tie a bow with this. I like to tie a knot, and then I'll bring that knot forward, and then this way my bow will be a little bit lowered, and then I'm going to go ahead and add some adhesive behind it, and then we can tack this down to our green pattern paper circle. There's a piece of foam adhesive behind it, so when you do this you just want to flatten it a little bit, and then we can place that on there. Now I'm not going to tie my bow just yet. I find it's easier to tie my bow when it's on my my card. So I'm going to take my piece of vellum and I'm going to add this to so my circle is barely touching, almost touching the S, but it's not going over the card base here. So you kind of want to center it in between this section here. And then I'm going to remove my release paper. There's a little tab on it. Let me show you. You see that little tab? You can use that just to pick it up and remove it. And then we can add our U. I'm going to go straight up and down with it, and I'm going to line my U up with the miss. And I'm going to center it on my vellum. It's a little bit lower than I want, so I'm hoping I can pick it up off the vellum and lift it a little bit. I think that's better. Now that I have that adhered, we can tie our bow. And my nail polish kind of matches the colors this month. It's a little bright, a little brighter than what I normally wear, but it was on sale. Okay, after we have our bow tied, I just trimmed the tails from our bow. And then we can work on our butterfly. We're going to take our butterfly, flip it around, kind of, you know what I like to do is kind of fold it in half, kind of work those wings a little bit. And then using the small, I guess we didn't use that last piece, but that's okay. I'm going to use the small foam squares that was in your embellishment bag. And we're going to add 2 right down the center where we folded that butterfly. Remove the release paper here. And then we're going to place this in the center of our stenciled area. And of course, if you mail it, it's going to flatten. You could actually put a couple pieces of foam circles under there if you wanted to. But we're not going to use our little tag, but we are going to use those little hearts that are in our little embellishment pack. Let me toss away my release paper there. Now I'm going to use my craft pick, and then we're going to pick up our little hearts with your craft pick, and I'm going to add 4 hearts right down the center of our butterfly, just for a little added detail. Kind of evenly space them, so I'll put 1 towards the top. I'll pick another one up, and this one's going to go on a little bit towards the bottom. And then I'll put the 2 extras right in between. If you wanted to put all 5, you could, but I think 4 is going to be perfect amount. So I have another little heart left over. And then I'm going to put this leftover stuff in my little embellishment bag. I might need them later on, who knows. But actually, you know what? In our kit this month, I gave you a little storage envelope. What we can do is take one of our envelopes, and then we can put our leftovers in our little storage bag. That way we don't lose them. And then that will finish off our card. Oh, we have a few sequins. Let's grab our sequins. Okay, I had to go hunt mine down. I was taking pictures with them. But let's open up our sequins. And I think I have some white ones in here. Let's see if I can fish them out with my craft tool. I want to just grab a couple white ones. I don't want to go, I think white will be nice and subtle. I'm going to fish out 3 white sequins. And I actually have a little triangle tray. Let me grab mine. Well, I'm not going to grab it. I'm just going to pour it. Make it easier. Okay, so we'll add 3. Maybe 1 over here. I think that's like the perfect amount. My camera cut off. Forgive me for that. And I just kept going. But I did adhere. Instead of going with the white sequins, I decided to go with the teal color sequins. I just put 2 here, and then I put 1 here. And I just used my glue for that. Kind of skipped that part. But and then basically that's done. We do have one last step, and that's where your white gel pen comes in. I'm going to take this, and then I'm going to add some faux stitching on that gray area just above the missue. And if you wanted to do this before, kind of lift up that vellum, that may be smarter, but I think we can get away with it after. And then that is our final touch. I'm going to straighten up those little hearts. Kind of do a little bit of wing fluffing. And then that finishes off my card today. We'll see you next Friday on July 8th for our next classroom project using the Butterflies and Borders classroom lesson kit. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you have a fabulous holiday. Well, I guess 4th of July is on Monday, I think. Don't quote me. But I hope you have a wonderful 4th of July holiday. we don't live that too far from the park, so we get to see the fireworks. I think we have a good location. We'll probably do a little bit of barbecuing in our backyard. But thanks for joining me. Thanks for your patience again for me getting this kit out late. I hope you're having fun, and we'll see you next Friday. Have a great day. Bye-bye.